This is a review for 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Giuliano. I came across this book at Barnes & Noble after my wife drugged me there unwillingly. I usually don't find anything there I'm interested in. However, in the new release section that day, this book caught my eye. The CD-ROM cover on there, the CD, and I flipped it over and read the back, and I was captivated, right? It talked about things like Y2K, the .com, and things like that. And I was actually working for .com back in the early 2000s, and it one of the first web hosting companies. So that was very much my world. And the story was immersive. It was easy to imagine. The author was well written. The book was well paced. I read this in about three and a half or 4 days. And really appreciated how the story went. There was definitely some nostalgia in the book. Computers, modems, monitors, Visual Basic 6, which I actually learned Visual Basic 6 back in the day. Dodge Neon in a driveway. Previous to going into the tech world, I actually worked for a Dodge dealership as an auto technician, worked on a number of Dodge Neons. But one of the things I really appreciated about this book at the beginning of chapter 11 and chapter 25, there is a web scraping session output from a terminal screen, right? They ran a script and it shows you what the actual scraping script was doing. And that was actually spot on. It was well done. Obviously, they did the research on what that should look like. It was a Linux or Unix system they were running this on. It was logging into websites, looking for things and forums and things like that. Now, back then, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was easy to pull off, right? But not so much today. So I actually work in web application security. Companies hire us to hack into websites to find all the vulnerabilities to keep people from hacking into their websites. So one of the things we do similar to web scraping is called open source intelligence, where we go out and we try to learn much about the company and the people that work there and look for exposed passwords and things like that. And that's harder to do today, that type of web scraping. And since open source intelligence, or OSINT, got popular probably about 10 years ago, I guess, looking back, these social media sites and forums and things like that have actually tried to stop the automation and stop people from gleaming data and getting too much personal information out of these areas. So that's more difficult to pull off today. But from a techno-horror perspective, this book is absolutely, I consider it techno-horror. It's horror. Definitely has a number of horror elements into it. I won't go in as so much as to spoil the book, but the story was really interesting, right? I was wondering how this was all going to tie together at the end, and it was nicely done. It was feasible from a techno-horror perspective, and I really appreciated that. Highly recommend this book if you're interested into the techno-horror area, or Y2K resonates with you, early 2000s .com boom and things like that resonates with you. So that's all I have for this one. Highly recommend it. I'm going to check out Jimmy Giuliano's other book, Dead 11, because the synopsis on that one looks really interesting. I'm going to add that to my TBR list. So subscribe and look for more reviews coming up.